Hey guys, how's it going? So it's April 12th, and so today I'm getting my potatoes ready to plant them outside in about a week. So I thought I'd just bring you along and show you the process. If you've never grown potatoes yourself in your own garden before, it's definitely one of the easiest crops to grow. I think the only thing that's easier would be like garlic, but they're both really good crops to grow because they store for a long time. Anyway, I also have seed potatoes in sort of a variety of stages right now, which is cool because I can show you them without having to do this video in parts. So the first thing that you want to do when you get your seed potatoes is a process called chitting. And what that is basically forcing eyes on your potato. Okay, I'll show you this up close in a minute. But this bowl of potatoes was from my garden last summer. And I actually didn't start my potatoes the last 2 years. I didn't start my potatoes until mid-July, which sounds like a big mistake, but it's not. All you have to do is, these were red Norlands, they're 90-day potatoes. So what I did was I counted backwards. My first frost in 5B is around middle of October. So I counted back and then factored in a week or so for them to actually sprout. So that's not the days to maturity. They still have to sprout, right? Plant them, they sprout. As soon as they do, then the clock starts. But if you're watching this, my point is, if you're watching this in June, let's say, and you're like, oh, I missed the boat, I was supposed to do that in April. No, you still have time. You just have to find a variety that is a short enough days to harvest. So a red Norland would be a good idea. A Yukon Gold is only, 70 to 90 days. So Yukon Gold's an even better choice because it's real fast. You just have to be able to find them. So that's the only risk you're really running, as long as you have the days to maturity left. The only real risk is not being able to find seed potatoes because they kind of sell in the spring and then that's it. So these potatoes, I'm going to show you up close. I'm not going to do anything with them, and you'll understand more why here when we get to the others. But let me show you these up close. So each one of these has at least one eye. You notice too, I didn't wash them off because I don't care. I'm not going to cut these. But each one of them has at least one really good eye. Ideally, you want to go for 2 or 3 eyes per potato, but honestly, I've planted micro tubers the last 2 years in a row, and they only had one real established eye. But these do have more than one. You see these little guys? That's a smaller eye, but it is an eye. So we're not cutting these. I'm not doing anything with these except planting them in the ground or wherever I plant them when the time comes. Okay, so that's really cool. If you don't eat all your potatoes from last year, just make sure whether you're planning on eating them or growing them again, make sure you keep them in a cool, dark place, ideally with humidity, but honestly, I have no humidity in or outside of my house. So I just put these in the garage where it was the coolest, and I kept a cardboard box over them to keep the light out. And I cut this one yesterday, and it was still perfect. It wasn't rotted at all. Of course, you wouldn't plant a rotted potato anyway, but they last a really long time, so potatoes are a really, really, really good thing to grow. So this went together, and this is from my potatoes from last year, and I'm going to show you these up close as well. So these 2 pieces made a whole potato. This one has sulfur on it, sulfur powder, that's why it looks a little weird, but this one does not. But you can see it's already starting to heal and cure with that ring around it. It's not wet to the touch. It has sort of a waxy finish to it now. And this is what you're going for. Okay, so what's the purpose of the sulfur powder, which I will show you here again in a second? It has antifungal properties, and so it sort of prevents diseases and things to invade, if you will, the cut surface of your potato, the exposed part. So it's a good thing to do if you have it or you want to, get some and take the time to do it. It doesn't take any time. I mean, you just literally dip your potato in it, but you don't have to. It's just kind of recommended. So the first thing I did here, so the second batch of potatoes that I'm working with are from MI Gardener, and I got these about a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. And I opened the Kennebecs and the red Pontiacs, and I saw they had eyes, which is great, but they weren't really to size yet. They weren't this big, for example. And so I said, well, these are already in paper sacks and they're in a box. And so that's what you do when you get your seed potatoes. If they don't have any eyes on them whatsoever, you need to go through the process called chitting, chitting, chitting. And what that does, you put them in a dark, like a paper bag, in a dark, cool place, and you're forcing eyes. So you end up with those guys. So I literally just took advantage of the packaging that these came in and left them there for a week or two or whatever it was, and they had much bigger eyes. So I already went through the process of cutting these up. When I got these, there was only 2 potatoes in this pound, but as you can see here, I got 8 potato pieces, and each one has 3 or 4 eyes on them. So don't worry if you get your seed potatoes either from MI Gardener or somewhere else. You ordered a pound, you only get 1 gigantic potato. Inspect it. If it has eyes all over it, you're good. If they're really, really small, throw them back in the paper bag, leave them in there for another week or so, take another peek, and you'll probably have established eyes. Then you can cut them into pieces and make more plants for yourself, if that makes sense. So that's what I did with the red Pontiacs here. The Yukon Gold, when I checked them last, I think the eyes were still a little small. So I may let these sit, but these are 70 to 90 day potatoes. So I have plenty of time on those, but I think I'll let the Yukon Gold sit in these paper bags in a dark spot for a little bit longer. But these Kennebecs, look at this. Look what happened. This didn't look like this. This looked like a plain old baked potato. I mean, not baked potato, but like just a big russet potato from the grocery store. It didn't have any of these eyes on it when I first got it. I mean, they did, but they were flat. You know, they weren't really sprouted like this. But now, just by leaving them in the bag that they came in, I have this potato that I can cut multiple ways, and I'll probably get, let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 eyes on this sucker. So I will get at least 4 plants out of this, maybe even 5 if I play my cards right. And one thing you might be asking, like, let's say I get down to here and see this part, this doesn't have any eyes on it, right? This little section here. So when I divide this potato up, like I did with these, I might end up with a big chunk left that doesn't have any eyes on it. And you're like, dang, if only that had eyes, I'd have 3 more plants. You can do the same thing. Once they're cut, don't think that you can't still chit them. You can. You're just going to, oh, it's the wrong bag. You're just going to take that big naked piece that doesn't have any eyes on it, put it back in your paper bag, and, you know, put it back in a dark place, and it will force eyes. Again, don't worry if you get like 1 giant potato from wherever that's, you know, you're like, oh no, it's not 1 plant, it's multiple plants. So cut them up and you'll have lots of seed potatoes. So that I'm going to finish going through cutting these up. Again, I'm going to do the red Pontiacs I have here. These are the red Pontiac are an 80 to 100 day potato. So again, you still have plenty of time on these. The Kennebec are a 90 to 120. So you would want to, if your first frost, again, if you're in 5B or similar and your first frost is mid-October, you'd want to get these planted by about June 1st, I would say, so that you have a week or 2 for them to sprout, and then you still have that 4 months, right? Did I do that right? Anyway, you get my point. You just have to count back. Count back days to maturity from your first frost, count backwards, and then add a week or 2 for the sprouting process, because that's not part of the days to maturity clock, okay? So that's what I'm going to be doing with these guys. And one more thing, let me show you this. So if you've seen my garden, which you probably have, maybe, I don't know. This could be your first video of mine, but it's big. I have a very large garden, and I have 6 raised beds, but each of them is 24 feet long by 4 feet deep. So I do have a lot of space, but I have like an entire half of one section is filled with strawberries. So that doesn't count. Then I have an entire 24-foot section that I reserved just for flowers, for my cut flower garden. So take that out of the mix. Then I have another whole bed, another whole 24-foot bed that is filled right now with snap peas, garlic, lettuce, radishes, shelling peas. So that bed's out, at least for early crops. So that bed I actually will be able to take back. About the end of June is when the garlic will be done. The peas will be done before that. And so that's when I'll start other things. But my point is, I don't want to take, I'm going to have so many potatoes. Okay, I've got 18 in here and I'm not cutting these up, but still, so that's 18 plants right here. I've got 8, I probably have 16 here. So from each pound, I'll probably have 16 potatoes. So I have no idea what 16 times 3 is, but imagine 16 times 3. I wish I could do math on the fly, but I can't. But that's a lot of space being taken up by just potatoes. And there's so many things I want to grow this year, especially things that store well, right? So I got these. And they're humongous, but this is a 25 pound, can you see it? Yeah. This is a 25 pound grow bag. And they were really, really reasonably priced. I got a 6-pack for $26, which makes each pot like $4.30. You can't buy a plastic pot this big for less than $40. And that's if you go to, someplace, where you get a really good deal. The ceramic pot would be $300 at that size. So I'm going to take these and I'm just going to put potatoes all over the place in these bags. I'm going to put 2 of these on my deck. That's right over there. I'm going to put another 2 like flanking my greenhouse door. Oh, spoiler alert, I got a greenhouse. Yes, I did. Can't wait to bring you in there. I was going to do this video in there today and I went out at noon and it was 120 degrees in there. I'm not exaggerating. It was 120 degrees. So I'm going to put 2 in front of my greenhouse doors. Again, 2 on the patio. And then I think I'll use what do I have? 5 or 6? I don't know. But I'm going to use another one for a big flower pot. And there might be, I think there's 5 actually is what it was, a 5-pack. But anyway, so that's what I'm going to be doing. That way I can just sort of put potatoes all around wherever I could fit them in these bags. And then I'll still put some in the garden in the raised beds, but I won't be taking up an entire bed because you have to think about it. I have an entire bed just for tomatoes. I have a half a bed just for peppers. And then I have another at least half a bed for squash. So these are pretty inexpensive if you have the room for them. I think they're great. So the only other thing I didn't mention is if you choose to dip your potato pieces in the sulfur, okay, you want to be really careful with it, especially if you have little dogs or cats. I have 2 little dogs. You don't want this blowing around, that you don't want them to inhale it. You don't want them to get it in their eyes. You certainly don't want them to get into it. It's harmful to them. So be really careful and mindful about that. But anyway, when you cut your potatoes, you're literally just going to tap that in there, knock off any excess, and then do it on all sides of the cut part of the potato. What I'm going to do with these cut potatoes, they're all going to be cut. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave them on the counter for 2 to 7 days, basically. And I'm going to wait to see when they're cured properly, not cured, but healed. When I feel like they're really no longer vulnerable, they're really dried over, sort of scabbed over, not to be confused with scab. But once they're really healed, then you plant them out, and you're going to want to plant them with their growth points up. But we'll do a video on that. But you just need, whether you put the sulfur on them or not, you need to let them be, in a single layer like this, so there's airflow all around, and let them dry completely. If you want, you could actually put some kind of maybe shredded newspaper in your trays, or I just saw Luca, my gardener, use pine shavings, animal bedding. You could put that in your trays. People use egg cartons to sort of stand them up in there. But this is all I've ever done is literally put them on cookie sheets and just make sure they're not touching, there's airflow, and it works just fine. I think that's everything I wanted to cover today, you guys. But anyway, if you have any questions, post a comment below. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.